Andrew Bynum was traded for Luol Deng, obviously from the Cleveland Cavaliers to the Chicago Bulls, and he made 0 appearances with the Chicago Bulls because they cut him, deciding not to pay him the $12.3 million that he would have been guaranteed. So they released him on Tuesday. So he is now a free agent. Chris Broussard has this tweet, if we pull that up very quickly. According to his sources, which are questionable at times, I'm told 8 teams are interested in signing Andrew Bynum, most notably the Heat and Clippers. Playing time, contender status, and money, all factors in the decision.
Chris Broussard's tweet, his sources are questionable?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been proven.
It has?
Yeah. Yeah. AwfulAnnouncing.com, many of the other fine blogs online.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Bynum can clearly help a team. There's no question. I mean, there were a couple games with Cleveland he looked pretty good, and then there were games where he looked like he just didn't have any interest in playing whatsoever.
Well, that's been the biggest problem, according to sources that told like CBS Sports and the BigLeague.com and what have you, that his heart just isn't in it, it appears.
Yeah, he's a troubled kid, clearly. I mean,
how so?
Because now this and everything else that happened in Los Angeles.
This meaning what?
This lack of interest in playing, this inability to gel with teammates in Cleveland. They said he he'd keep to himself. He didn't really talk. He didn't, and now you factor in the other stuff that happened earlier in his career.
Man, look at that picture.
Yeah, he's huge.
I mean, he is big, but he just looks a little. I'm not going to say overweight. He's not overweight, but just.
No, he might be a little overweight.
No, Mike, he doesn't look totally overweight. Can we go to the next one? Yeah, that's not a good picture. I mean, like there. He's a 7-footer. I understand that, but he's just, I don't know. There's something about that that's just like.
But I mean, now you look back at everything that happened in Los Angeles and some of the troubles that he had here, and the complaining and the parking tickets and the parking in the handicap zone, he's just, I mean, he's clearly too young. He's a guy who could have used some further seasening. Socialization.
Could have used Deion Sanders.
Could have used some
saying.
College, but he didn't get it, and he's incredibly talented, and of course somebody will use him. He can make a difference defensively almost immediately, and if he's motivated, and this guy gets 20 minutes a game, those can be a pretty impactful 20 minutes. And I don't know why we're restricting it to 20 minutes. If he gets healthy, he can play 35 minutes a game. I mean,
I don't think a coach would push him to 35 minutes, though, because of the knee injuries that he's had year in, year out. I mean, that doesn't seem like the best move for him.
If he gets healthy, then if he can play, then he can play. I mean, you can't. If you can play, you can play. So but I would love to have him on any team I was coaching, especially that there's no risk at this point.
Now the Heat, Broussard said, are in the running. The Clippers are in the running. The other teams, according to NBC Sports Talk, I believe this is, Pro Basketball Talk, under the NBC Sports umbrella, the Nets, the Knicks, the Mavericks, and the Spurs.
The Nets have said now, no.
The Nets have said no?
The Nets have said no,
read that this morning?
I read it yesterday, even though they have the significant, I think a $5+ million exception, injury exception for Lopez. But they don't want to do it. I'm not entirely sure why, since they can come back and win that division. Anybody can win that division now. Although
anybody can win the East. That can be the 3rd seed in the East. Excuse me, the 3rd seed in the East.
4th. If you have that lousy record, you'll get the 4th seed, but you won't get home court advantage. But you'll still be given the 4th seed.
I was just saying they could win it outside of Miami and Indiana. I mean, they could beat out the Hawks, it appears. Theoretically, you could beat out the Hawks, but it looks like whoever's going to get that 4th seed is a good chance they're going to finish under 500. Either the Hawks or I hope the Wizards. Somebody's going to win 45 games and get that 3rd seed. Okay, here's my question to you: if you are Pat Riley and you see basketball talent in ways that many of us simply do not, and he was able to lure so many players to play, he was able to lure LeBron James and Chris Bosh to play with Wade. They're probably going to win it again this year. I have stuck to that point. I will continue to stick to it. But getting to this, would you sign Andrew Bynum?
Yeah, definitely.
To Miami Heat?
In a heartbeat.
No question.
Yeah, and I mean, and you would also think that if he doesn't adapt there, if he can't get motivated to play 15 to 20 minutes a night with LeBron and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, these sort of
he might not, though.
Right, but if he can't motivate to play with these serious professionals, and Shane Battier and these guys who just know how to play and how to play correctly and how to handle their business in the NBA, well, then he can't play anywhere. So But he wants to play and he wants minutes. So as Chris Broussard's tweet suggested, and what I've read is that maybe that all came from
playing time,
Broussard.
contender status, and money.
Right, so I'm not sure he wants to play 15 minutes a game. He may want to go 25, 30 minutes a game and reestablish his career for very obvious reasons, is that if he plays 28 minutes a game and gets 14 points and 9 rebounds and blocks a couple of shots, well, then he's going to get a $60 million contract next year, which is what he wants.
Let me ask you this.
Which is what he should want.
Let me ask you this.
It's his job.
When did, yeah, certainly. Let me ask you this. When did basically the focus and the mentality sort of shift? I know that free agency had a lot to do with it, but where the players could strong arm the coaches like this and sort of not necessarily get coaches fired, but just where the players had more control than the coaches. Did free agency basically do that for sports?
Yeah, because they got so much money, and then eventually you pay, if you got $75 million, $50 million, $40 million invested in a player, and a coach who's making $1.5 million a year, $2 million a year, well, then you know how that's going to go. And the player is obviously harder to find. That's the tricky part.
The star players.
Yeah, difference-making players are hard to find, so you want to hang on to them.
Sure.
But, you know, it happens a few times, but it's not like players are consistently running coaches off. And the Cavaliers took a very reasonable tact here, is that they gave him $12 million, but they only guaranteed $6 million. So if they cut him before this week, they had a chance to save that other $6 million or get rid of him, and they were able to trade him. And they knew very well that even if he was bad news, trading that contract was incredibly appealing to other teams who wanted to get under the tax.
Yeah.
So it was incredibly appealing to the Bulls, and it was incredibly appealing to the Lakers, who screwed up by not working out a deal for Gasol. I think they would have wanted that. The money that they saved would have mattered to them, and their season, whether the Lakers realize it or not, is as sunk can be. They're at the bottom of the ocean, and the ship is split in half.
Well, they're not totally at the bottom. They're almost at the bottom of the Western Conference.
No, I mean figuratively.
Yeah, I got you.
They're not turning it around. They're not sneaking into the playoffs. They're bad, and they're not going to come back and win 13 out of 16. It's not happening.